Since 1997, our researchers have been testing everyday products for chemicals of concern like lead and cadmium and mercury and arsenic, and those products are posted at our website, healthystuff.org, where you can also find results on the jewelry that we've just tested. We tested jewelry from 6 different states and 14 different retailers. All of the jewelry was purchased for under $10, and much of it was targeted towards children. Our researchers tested for chemicals including lead, cadmium, arsenic, mercury, bromine, and chlorine, which have been linked in animal and some human studies to acute allergies and to long-term health impacts such as birth defects, impaired learning, liver toxicity, and cancer.
The principal concerns are health effects. So health effects on kids that might mouth or swallow the jewelry. Lead's a neurotoxin, very toxic to young children. Cadmium is also quite toxic and bioaccumulates through the lifetime. It can cause kidney damage, bone damage as you age. We screen the jewelry items with a technique called X-ray fluorescence. That involves shining X-rays at the item. You look at the X-rays that are fluoresced by the metals there, and we can identify what metals might be in the piece of jewelry.
Over half of the products we tested had a high level of concern due to the presence of 1 or more hazardous chemicals detected at high levels. 25% of the jewelry samples we tested contained lead over 300 parts per million, which exceeds the Consumer Product Safety Commission limit of lead in children's products.
It ends up in the jewelry because it's cheap, it's easy to melt, it makes nice heavy pieces of jewelry. And in fact, we've found in a lot of the pieces we've tested that are 95% lead by weight, that the alloy composition is almost identical to what you find in lead-acid car batteries.
5 of the products we tested contained over 10% cadmium by weight, and cadmium is a known carcinogen.
After the passage of the Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act in the United States, and with much more stringent regulation of lead in children's jewelry, there were no regulations on cadmium. Cadmium is bright and shiny. It melts actually at a lower temperature than lead, and it actually is cheaper than lead. It's recovered from nickel-cadmium batteries. The anodes of those batteries have cadmium in them. The problem is that if you damage that outer coating, the amount of cadmium that can be released in these tests can be increased by as much as 10 times. It's very common to have those pendants end up in the mouth. Those minutes and hours over the lifetime of that piece can accumulate, and if it's a piece that's high in lead or cadmium, could be quite dangerous.
When McKenna was a baby, sometimes she would touch my necklace and put it in her mouth, or be playing with my earring and stick it in her mouth, just because everything goes in babies' mouths when they're little.
We did a little bit of work on using the synthetic skins to look at absorption of toxic metals, and something that struck us at that point was the importance of sweat. Sweat acts as an enhancer, actually, in the sense that it forms more very soluble compounds of these metals, and which can then be absorbed onto the skin, and then ultimately we get into the blood circulation.
When parents ask me, what should I buy for my kids? Very tough question, because when you go out into stores and you see items on the shelves, you can't always trust that it's going to be safe. I mean, some of the items that are here are labeled lead-free, right? So I have a lead-free pendant that is not lead-free. In fact, it's almost 100% lead. So when you go out into a store and you can't believe what's on the label, you can't know what is safe.
We don't have the policy mechanism now in place to deal with some of the metals that are showing up in newer, more diverse products. We wait until something bad really happens, then we'll go and put in legislation to prevent it from happening in future. In the long run, it's cheaper to prevent exposure than to wait to treat or deal with the problem when it happens.
We urge manufacturers to start replacing these chemicals with non-toxic substances immediately. 6 states have moved to regulate cadmium in the absence of federal leadership, including California, Connecticut, Illinois, Maryland, Minnesota, and Washington. Federally, a wave of consumer pressure is pushing a rewrite of the Toxic Substances Control Act the federal law that regulates chemicals in commerce.
I would definitely think twice before just going out and buying our cheap little earrings or necklaces. I'm really grateful that people are constantly trying to keep our kids safe by doing tests like this and letting us know, hey, you probably shouldn't let your kids play with your jewelry or put it in their mouths without close supervision because it could be harmful to their health.